Hey, you found us. Or maybe you just stumbled upon us. This is the Amazing Greats podcast. We track down well-known authors and actors, athletes, musicians, and business leaders and uncover their life stories, their career stories, and how their faith has played a big role in all of that. If you like this, hit the like button. If you click subscribe, you'll be updated automatically when we publish a new episode, which happens every other Wednesday. Well, this is episode 14. And for the first time, it's a three-way conversation with the writer and lead actor of the movie comedy Church People. His name's Thor Ramsey, and the director of the film, Shawn Shaw. The movie is a hilarious spoof on the wild antics of mega churches. To give you an idea, I thought we'd start with the trailer. Let's take a look.
I told you if we broke attendance records, I'd get the church logo tattooed on my arm.
Skip, remember back when we first started? All we did was preach the gospel.
Ooh, Superman works. I like Superman. Guy, what do you think?
What happened to you?
Me? Your dad is the one with the gimmicks.
The power of the Holy Spirit propels us.
I just went to church to get back to the gospel.
Problem is you're trying to get your message across.
The gospel?
Right. And ain't nobody listening to that.
For Good Friday and Easter, I need something big. Amen?
Bigger than the resurrection.
Bigger than anything we've ever done. National headlines.
Preach on the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Bam! An actual crucifixion.
Uh-oh.
By placing the nails through your palms in the right place, we hope to avoid major nerve damage.
Operation Stop Skip is a go. That's awesome.
You have to cancel this Good Friday stunt.
Don't be so dramatic, honey. Ooh, I like the rusty ones.
What are you gonna do?
I told him he's insane. Been praying for you about that toe fungus. This could be beneficial for all parties involved.
We foster a yes environment here.
God wanted me to marry you and you could be my wife.
I have an answer for you.
We are talking today with a couple of guys who know each other well, but maybe our audience needs a little update on who and what you're doing. So first of all, raise your right hand if your name is Shawn Shaw. There you go. And Shawn Shaw is first of all, hard name to pronounce, but
I like to say, try saying it 5 times fast.
And you catch people up on that for sure. I had a hard time saying it once. So
there's a movie based on his life called The Shawshank Redemption. You might have seen that. So,
Shawn Shaw is a director, a movie director, a writer, an editor. You know, I went on LinkedIn to kind of find out a little more about you, and I have a long laundry list of stuff you are, including you're a creative consultant.
I can't even say that. Laundry list. The Shawn Shaw laundry list.
Shawn Shaw laundry list.
What he is. What are you exactly?
So you do all kinds of stuff then, right? Shawn Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Including film and directing.
What's that?
Yeah, go ahead. You tell me.
Well, I was just going to say, like, my primary one is that I enjoy doing the most is directing. I love being on set. I also enjoy the editing process. When it's a bigger project, I tend to prefer to have an editor I can sit with and not be bogged down with all the footage. But I do editing as well. So, okay. But I did not edit Church People. We had a Emmy award-winning editor, Michael D. Schultz, edited Church People.
Okay.
And then later on down the line, there was some truncating of the edits done, and somebody else did that. But yeah,
Gotcha. Now, don't give it away because we haven't even talked about church people yet. So we're going to get there, and that's really what we're all about here today. What we're here to do is to talk about this great movie that you guys both have a key role in. So, but let's find out what Thor is all about. Thor Ramsey is a stand-up comic. You are an actor. You are a writer, and you are an author and a pastor. All of that. In fact, you wrote a couple of books, one of which I thought was very intriguing, and I have not purchased it yet, but will, is the most encouraging book on hell ever. That's got to be a great book.
Yeah, so that was the latest book I wrote. So I was just telling Christopher, I just had an offer for, I've written 5 novels, just started sending those out. So I just had an offer for one of those to be published. So we'll see. And
then the other one you wrote was called Broke, How Not to Give Up When Climbing Out of Debt. And I noticed that on Amazon, it's free.
Oh, it is.
which could be a problem.
Man.
Yeah, he's not climbing out of debt from sales from the book, obviously.
I don't think so. That's what I'm assuming.
So
it's just the Kindle version is free. And then if you want to buy the paperback, you got to pay. But so let's talk about comedy and Christianity. First of all, there's this thing now, I think it's called Christian comedy, and that's fairly new, right? Who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, I don't think it's fairly new, but
there's like a fraternity of Christian comics, right? There's Tim Hawkins, Shonda Pierce, Michael Jr., Jeff Allen, Larry Weaver, and yourself. And
there's an association called the Christian Comedy Association.
There is?
Yeah.
I thought that's what
around
you're talking about.
What? Has it been around for what, 15 years or so?
Oh, it's probably been around at least, 15 years, I would say.
Wow. So it's new, but not all that new. Interesting. I had no idea that there was an association. I thought you were kidding. I thought we were joking there.
Oh, yeah. Depends on who you talk to.
So is there a difference between Christian comedy and just family comedy, or is it kind of all the same?
Yeah, it just means it's just a different synonym for it. It just means clean comedy for the most part.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Christian comedy that you guys are both involved in, and I'm a little confused about it, and I know you can square me away. Is this movie? It's called Church People, which the trailer is hilarious, and the movie's got to be incredible. Go back to the origins of that, Thor. I think you had an idea for a movie a long while ago that this kind of came from.
Yeah, so this is probably, I think it was about 1998, early 2000s. Jon Favreau, who you might know is the creator of the Mandalorian series, is an actor and director. He played Rudy's frumpy friend in the movie Rudy. He was Happy in the Iron Man series. He directed the movie Elf, and he starred and directed other movies. But I think it was about 98. He wrote and directed a film called Swingers, which is about a guy whose 4 friends are helping him get over his girlfriend, helping him get over the breakup of his girlfriend. That's what I was trying to say. But it was only made for $200,000, and back then I was monitoring independent features because I wanted to, get a film made, and I'd written 2 romantic comedies. And started a script called Youth Group that I liked the tone of Swingers. It was kind of set in reality, but had a comedic tone to it. So that's what I was trying to accomplish in a script about the Christian subculture. And so back then I had a manager and a career I cared about. So he got me a meeting with Sony Faith, which is Sony Affirm, basically. And so I pitched him these 2 romantic comedies that I had fully blown, fully written scripts and clear ideas, but they were just general market films. They're like, we want a film that's faith based. Did you not, Sony Affirm, we want faith. Did you prepare at all? Anyway, so I told them about this idea I had about a youth pastor in crisis, and they wanted to see that script. So I went home that I only had about 30 pages. I didn't tell him that, but I went home that week and finished it and sent it off to him. And there's a guy, he's still over there. His name's Josh Nadler. And Josh read it and called me up and gave me notes over the phone. And he did that 5 times. Now, I don't know if that's normal or not, but that was my experience. And during the 5th phone conversation, he says, what your script needs right now to bring all the characters together is a big idea. I'm like, oh, so I'll set my antennas up for a big idea. And a friend of mine who's a church planter back then called me up. He says, you're not going to believe what this church is doing Good Friday. I'm like, what are they doing? He's like, they're going to have a crucifixion. There's no way, because I'm on their social media right now. And so I check it out. And it turns out that they were just going to have a passion play, but it was going to be so graphic that it seemed like they were going to crucify someone. But what I realized is that so many pastors in America had done such crazy things to draw people to church that for a moment, my friend and I actually believed that an American evangelical church would actually crucify someone on a Good Friday. And right then I go, there's my big idea. So the rest of the scripts, after 30 revisions, really were centered upon that idea of a church that was actually going to crucify someone as a gimmick to attract people to church.
So it's kind of it's a spoof on the whole mega church.
Well, it is. It is satirical in nature, but I always tell people this: you can only satirize what you love, and we love Jesus and we love the church, so we were doing it as kind of a gentle rebuke to get back to what really should draw people to. Well, the primary means that God gave us to draw people to church, which is the gospel.
Gotcha. So Shawn, Christopher. Here we go again. We go by Christopher Shaw.
How about CSS? You want to call me CSS?
Yeah, that's even easier.
Yeah. Or just call me Christopher. That's fine.
Give us a little synopsis of the movie. What's taking place? What's going on in this movie?
So Thor's character, Guy Sides, is America's favorite youth pastor. And we find him in the beginning of the movie caught in the megachurch marketing machine that his sphere of influence is pumping out. And he's just trying to get out and get back to his passion again of preaching the gospel. And he's, basically trying to find his way. But he's surrounded by a whole bunch of zany supporting cast members like Michael Monks, who plays the senior pastor, Pastor Skip. Joey Fatone, who plays the zany worship leader who sings most of his lines, and so there's this over-the-top mentality surrounding him, and there's only 1 or 2 voices of reason other than himself, and he's just trying to navigate the waters and falls for the senior pastor's daughter. There's a mysterious greeter guy who knows things that you don't know how he knows, and
Is he an angel? Is he not an angel?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a fun reveal about that at the end. And so, yeah, it's a really fun movie. I like to call it poignant laughter. You will laugh, but it's poignant. It's very redemptive in nature. There's a strong redemptive arc. And yeah, it's you'll be able to relate to multiple characters in the film.
A couple of other notable actors that we should throw out there just for the sake of it, and that is the Baldwin brothers, right?
Dropping.
2 of the Baldwin, huh?
2 of the Baldwin brothers. Yeah, he was talking about name dropping. Yeah, it's time to name drop.
Stephen
and William.
Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then China Phillips is also.
And Billy and China are married in real life, right?
I didn't know that. Did you know that, Thor?
Well, I found out.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, they're married in real life, and I think that was the first time they played husband and wife on camera. But they've been married for around 3 decades.
And their scene's one of my favorite in the entire movie.
Yeah, that scene is one of the funniest scenes of the movie.
So the stepping back, was there a misfire on the introduction of the movie, or is it because of the pandemic? Because it originally was aired or somewhere available in March, right?
It was a theatrical release in March. Okay. we
were in the top. We made the top 10 in the box office, but it was during COVID, so I was 3 theaters, 11 people. But still, we're still with that stat. But
Okay, that's the joke. It was actually we were in about 400 theaters nationwide. It was a 3-day Fathom event, and typically Fathom events
Well,
are
it wasn't a
one
joke.
night.
We made number 10 at the box office. That wasn't a joke.
Well, no, that wasn't a joke.
Well, you made it sound like it was. So
No. The 3 theaters, 11 people was a joke. We had there were more theaters and more people who actually saw
I
it.
think
But
people know that was a joke, Christopher. So if you got to tell people it's a joke, then they're not going to get it. Like if I got to say, "Hey, that was a joke."
See,
You know how much time
I'm
it
still
would take
learning.
to
I'm
stand
still
up
learning.
and- if every
It's a
time I said
process.
joke, and that was a joke. So it's like, there's your cue to laugh. It's like that's going to be a bad show, and that's a bad audience. It's like if I got to tell you it's a joke, just give up, give it up. Go watch a drama. Go watch
I'm
me-
laughing like a madman over here, but I'm trying to laugh quietly because I don't want to interrupt the audio
Well, that's
here
the
in our
worst kind
Zoom
of laughter you can
conversation.
have, man. You're a bad audience. That I tell you what, be a good audience. Laugh out loud. That's a rule of comedy. Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the star-laden cast, aside from you, of course.
And then I want to know when is this the launch? When are we going to be able to see it in?
Okay, so yes, that's what we're talking about. So it was a 3-day Fathom event. So it was theatrically released, and then there was virtual screenings for a couple of months. You could watch it virtually on the website as well as salemnow.com. However, now we're in the waiting period between now and the digital and DVD release. So that'll be in September. We don't have a date yet. At least I haven't heard a date yet. But sometime in September, you'll be able to watch it on
Hopefully I'm on my
streaming platforms
birthday.
and digital. And what, Thor?
On my birthday.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
that'd be fun.
His birthday's in September. Yeah,
Is it September
September
7th by chance?
12th, right?
Well, I'm the 7th, so I just thought maybe there was
How about that?
Is it not going to be in a theater then, ultimately in the fall, or will it be?
I don't think it already had its theatrical release, so it already happened.
Okay.
It was just a Fathom event is typically a
COVID
one-night
release,
event.
put it that way.
What's
COVID.
that?
Yeah.
COVID release.
Yeah, it was the theatrical COVID.
Which is brilliant move in the it's like anyway.
But there was a little talk about a possible bring back to theaters later in the year, like maybe closer to December.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Somebody would have to fund that, and so I don't know where that is.
Great Easter movie. That would be perfect.
Well, yeah, what it did come out before Easter, so that was it's definitely because the climax of the film takes place at a Good Friday service. So yeah, that was really good timing mid-March, and it did well. We were in the top 10 at the box office when you average out the screens of all the movies and the number of screens everybody was on. So on a per screen average, it was the top 10.
What about backlash or pushback from mega churches? Have you gotten much flack with regard to that?
Not personally.
We just heard through the grapevine that early on when people were screening it for mega church pastors, that some of them basically said they didn't want to get behind it because they felt it was talking about them, which to me, that says something about Thor's brilliant writing. And of course, there were 2 other writers on the script we shot as well, Wes Halula and Bob Sands. But yeah, not really. I think one of the biggest pushbacks we've had, which is a minor, it's minor, but there's kind of a vocal minority, is people who think it's a blasphemous attempt. Like, you don't make fun of the crucifixion kind of a thing. And the whole point of the movie is his character.
Like, you can't, you're just not getting, you don't understand satire if that's your critique.
Right.
Because it's not, if you understand what the movie's doing, the movie's not doing that.
Right.
It's almost like a horrible misinterpretive error. It's like, how good is your Bible reading if you can't even interpret a movie? I'm sorry. It's just, you're just completely, it's okay. You're the kind of person we have to go, and that's a joke. So boom. I'm sorry. That's just, anyway.
Right.
But overall, it's getting good response.
Yeah. The responses actually overall have been fabulous. And I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. I mean, I've been floored by how
Love the
wonderfully. What's that?
They love the final
Yeah, they love the climax. They love. I mean, like, and I'm hearing,
but the wrap up, boom, you got him. You got him with the wrap up.
I'm hearing from people multiple times over that there's laughing, there's lots of laughing, there's crying, there's sobbing. I mean, like, it's like the gamut of emotions watching the film. So that's I said so. What?
You laugh, you cry. It's everything you want in a movie.
Yeah, it's
in a movie.
The best movie ever. It's a laugh and a cry.
Yeah, it's like that joke. You'll laugh, you'll cry. It's better than Cats.
I had not heard that, but that was a joke, and I laughed out loud. So
you did.
And I guess the bigger overall question, you kind of answered it already, but is there the conservative side of the Christian faith? Is there backlash to the whole idea of comedy and Christianity together? I mean, is there a certain amount of people that don't believe that there's anything comedic about it, or do you find that a lot?
I don't think that's the case anymore.
I wouldn't say that I find that a lot, but it's certainly still out there. I think there is
distinguish between evangelicalism and fundamentalism.
Yeah,
I think fundamentalists might have more of an issue, but that's why they're fundamentalists. Evangelicals, unfortunately, have more liberalized, and so that's the issue that we're really tackling in the film. In one sense, some of the unspoken issues have to do with church growth and the church growth movement, and how we dumb down the faith because we don't want to offend people, because we're trying to attract people, and you become, you become who you attract in one sense, and what you attract them with is what you keep them with. So if you attract them with whistles and bells, you have to continue on, and it's really about that glass ceiling that churches. That's the whole idea, is that this pastor keeps doing. He shot himself out of a cannon. He did this. He did that. He keeps doing these crazy things, and he's kind of hit his glass ceiling. What can he do to top it? Because everything has to top the last thing, because that's what you're attracting them with. And that's really what instead of just focusing on the message that God gave us, which is Jesus Christ, who is the gospel. So
yeah, like in the trailer, he says, like, I need something big for Good Friday and Easter, and Thor's like, bigger than the resurrection?
Yeah,
like,
so if people
how do you get bigger than that?
People don't understand that's satirical.
That's the point, and that's the point of the movie. Yeah,
exactly.
That's the point of the movie. So
I love that. So, and Thor, you were or are a pastor yourself? Were you a youth pastor or a pastor? Or
no, I'm not a pastor. I'm a church planting pastor.
Wow. Tell me what that means exactly.
Well, you start a church, you get a group of people and go, let's start a church. So you started a church in a community, and then you see if you can reach some people. That's pretty much. And
then you move on and plant another church?
Well, some people do. I don't. I'm just sticking with this one. That's it. So, I preach this Sunday, and
Wow.
So I preach every week, basically.
And were you at one time a youth pastor? I love the line in the movie where you said, she said, the youth pastor is here at the reception desk, and she said something, but he doesn't look very youthful. And
he doesn't look young, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And you said,
yeah. Oh, a youth pastor. That means a youth pastor doesn't mean you're a pastor who's young. It just means you're a pastor of youth. That's the idea. But I was never a youth pastor, but being a stand-up comedian in the Christian market over the years, I've done a lot of youth events. So I was around a lot of youth pastors, and youth pastors I did a lot of youth conferences, back in the day when they used to do what were they called? Youth specialties. They would literally be, back in the heyday, I don't know what years this would have been, probably in the early 2000s, but there would literally be, I think we had over 10,000 people at one conference in Nashville.
Wow.
And, but other than we'd have 3,000 to 5,000 people at these conferences, there would be gigantic crowds. And so you're around a lot of the youth market.
So were you, I always like to ask this question, and some people have a great, stunning answer, and others it's more of an evolving situation. But was there an aha Jesus moment in your life where the light clicked on and you recognized Jesus Christ as Lord?
For me, it was night and day.
Okay, good. Tell me about that.
Mine was night and day. I was a freshman in college. Long story short, I had a really impactful spiritual experience when I was 11, but I wrote it off because I didn't understand the gospel at that point, but I wrote it off as just an emotional experience. But when I got to college, I didn't believe there was a such thing as morality. I didn't believe in morality. I didn't believe that, I believe that morality was a social construct. It was just society deciding we're going to believe this and decide these are the rules. But for me, that was never influential. I'm going, if that's the case, you can't tell me something's right or wrong. And don't come to me with your cultural values and demands, especially in today's culture. I would have been completely fighting against it. I would have been like, you can't come to me with your cultural values and demand that I adhere to whatever you say I should adhere to, because you know what? You're human beings. That's all. You've got no more authority than the fact that you're human. If I get a group of people and decide we're all against you guys and we're more, we've overcome your morality. What you say is good is now evil to us. And since we're the majority, we get to decide what's good or evil. And that's always been a ridiculous way to go about morality. But that's what I believed when I was a freshman in college. And so my whole thing was, there was just no way. I thought all religions was just man-made, just some set of rules that some man or some group of people decided upon. So it had no authority over me whatsoever, zero. But oddly enough, I also believed people were basically rotten to the core. I didn't believe in the basic goodness of humanity. Now, generally, when people believe in and there are a lot of people who still believe this today, that society decides on what is best and they decide the morality of the day, and they're fine with that. But they believe people are basically good. That's why they think it's a good thing. It's bad philosophy and bad religion and bad everything else when it comes down to reasoning. But I didn't believe people were basically good. And just being in relationships taught me that. Being around human beings taught me that people weren't. And looking at my own motives and my own heart, I'm like, I'm not basically good. So long story short, I started talking to some Christians, and, the guy asked me what I thought the greatest problem with humanity was. And I said that it was narcissism. People are basically self-loving at the core in a horribly selfish way. He goes, I'd agree, but we call it something different. We call it sin. So, and that's what perked up my interest. I'm like, really? Well, wow, that's self-evident to me. What's the Christian answer to that? Because I thought, I didn't get this. I'm a freshman in college. I'd never even heard about the resurrection. I didn't know Jesus rose from the dead. I thought it was about rules. I didn't know it was it's about him rising from the dead. So anyway, long story, that's as long as I can, as short as I can make that story. But when I heard the gospel, it rang true, had some conversations with them. And then one night, I did the standard evangelical thing. I prayed to receive Christ, and by myself in my dorm room, but it was, the world looked different. The next day, I opened the Bible. It was alive. The world looked different. It was night and day to me. It was life to death, or death to life. Sorry. I went from death to life. So I went from darkness to light. And it was, some people it's progressive and it's different with everybody. Yeah. I get that. But for me, it was someone like heat. It's about rules to resurrection. I mean, it's like, is that that great a contrast?
Perfect. I love that story. And you're right. It happens different ways for different folks. And I'm one of those ones that kind of evolved, so it took time, and I was, a bit of a skeptic, and it took a progression for me. How about you, Christopher?
I grew up more or less always believing in God, as there's a Heavenly Father, kind of a entity. And then when I was a kid, my dad was basically like, hey, the neighbor kids are going to, so I grew up in a very small area. It's literally called the village of Plainfield. It's not a town or a city, it's a village. So I grew up in a village. And there was a Methodist church, and my dad was like, hey, the neighbor kids are going to Sunday school. Do you want to go?
The village kids, you mean?
The village kids. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, so I would attend Sunday school and sometimes go to church, and I was in the choir and blah, blah, blah. But it was around junior high that a small youth group of us went to see a Billy Graham Evangelic Association movie, and the characters in the movie went to a Billy Graham crusade, and he gave the altar call. And I remember sitting there thinking, man, if I was one of those characters, I would go forward. And at the end of the movie, Billy Graham came on the screen and invited those watching the movie in the theater to come forward. So I went forward, prayed with the prayer counselor, and I just remember leaving the theater feeling clean and forgiven. But my theology was like nil. It was like, I mean, it was basically as shallow as, I believe in Jesus, I'm going to heaven. That's it. That was my theology, right? Yeah. So it was pretty status quo for me until
which, when it comes to bad theology, that's the best theology to have right there.
Well, right. It's a good basic theology, but as far as theological depth and like what it all means, and I had no clue, and I wasn't avidly reading the Bible or anything like that. And so I basically got scared into getting serious about my faith because I heard one of those fiery preachers on TV after college.
Wait a second, there's fiery preachers on TV. Are we talking about the same television station? So let's not confuse people. But anyway, you heard a fiery preacher. Don't say on TV, because generally that's not where you find them. Just so you know, folks.
Anyway,
how did you mature then from that start?
So when I grew up in Ohio, and so I was in Ohio when that happened, and shortly thereafter I moved to Southern California initially.
So you matured in your Christian faith by leaving Ohio. Is that what you're telling people? That Ohioans aren't going to like that. How'd you mature in your Christian faith? I had to get out of Ohio.
Well, for me and my story, that was part of it. But I moved to Southern California, and I got plugged in at the Church on the Way, which is Pastor Jack Hayford. And he was a very balanced teacher. He's charismatic, but he's not swinging on the chandeliers charismatic. And he's not
actually like Pentecostal. If you actually get to,
what's that?
I think he's actually Pentecostal though.
Right. But I mean, that's considered charismatic, but he was very balanced in his teaching, and he would actually teach subtext. Like he would teach the root word, like this is what the Greek means. This is what the Hebrew means. And I got a better understanding because I was also one of those people who got angry a lot about contradictions in scripture. Let me clarify for Thor before he goes on a rant. Supposed contradictions in scripture. Like I thought, like that looks like a contradiction. But when I heard more solid teaching, like from Pastor Jack or somebody else who would dive deep into this is the cultural context, this is what this word is different here than it is over here, so it doesn't mean the same thing. Like for example, there's like 4 or 5 different Greek words for the one word in English, love. And so therefore they have different meanings when they're used. Like there's eros love, and there's friendly love, and there's agape love, and there's all these different kinds of love. And so you got to understand the context instead of, twisting the scriptures to say something they're not saying. And I did a lot of that in my anger and like trying to like, well, this is contradictory here, and this is, and I realized through some more solid teaching that no, there aren't contradictions in the Bible like I thought. And so that was very, very helpful. So I was there for a few years, and then I just, listening to more grounded teaching that really dived deep and didn't just take what appears to be face value in our English understanding of the language.
Yeah. We have a couple pastors at our church, and one of them particularly goes into the historical context like you're talking about, and goes into the difference in Greek, and so it makes it, and that's how I kind of matured too. It's the same way, kind of learning more and buying into all the differences in the interpretations. So anyway, but this isn't a story about me. This is a story about you. So the final
there, I tell you what.
So the other question I have is a little more difficult, and that is, how about faith? The biggest or a faith challenge, or a moment of doubt, or something where prayer wasn't answered. Is there a time in your life, Thor, that you can remember that there was that challenge?
Well, in my Christian journey, I've never been one to, mine was such, I had both two things that I think grounded me in the Christian faith. Number one, I had an experience of Christ, but then I also had my understanding of the scriptures grew, the foundational aspect of the scriptures, which I'm big on. You can't if you just have experience, you won't last. I'm much bigger. It's like I think, reading the Bible is the word of God. So you open up the Bible. If you're reading the Bible, God's speaking to you. You don't have to feel a certain thing. If you go and it's his word, it's living and active. He's speaking to you when you open the Bible. Now, for a long time, I felt like I needed to feel something that he was speaking to me personally when I read it. Because I used to read the Bible waiting for because when you first become a Christian, the scriptures are alive. The pages just, they jump from the page to your soul, and the words jump from the page to your soul. And so as I matured in my faith, supposedly, every time I was going to the scriptures, I was waiting for the words to jump off the page, and I go, there's no way to read the Bible anymore. It's by faith. Because, if you're waiting for an experience, that is not by faith. Faith is the assurance of things unseen. So you go to the scriptures knowing that God has spoken. This is his word to humanity. It's his word to you. So God is speaking to you from his word. So I've never had a issue with doubting the truthfulness of Christianity. Those were never my issues. My issues were theological. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, because, I came to faith through a campus ministry organization that was great at evangelism, but lousy at discipleship. They discipled, but their discipleship was always pragmatic and not theological. It was all, you believed in Jesus. Now here's what you do. So it was all about doing. Whereas now you do because of what you believe. And if you don't have the theological depth, your doing becomes the basis of your relationship with God. And so my doubts were always, does God really love me? I know Jesus died for me, and I believe all that, but does he like me? Does he? It's almost like, I feel like I'm continually failing him, and I always felt condemned, and I feel like I can't live up to the call, etc. And that came from, I believe in Jesus, and now I'm doing. And so my doing became the basis of my relationship with God. So my doubts were, does he really love me? And that the only way that is answered is by going into the depths of the gospel and seeing what he actually did and how that never changes. And those are the facts of the gospel, and you got to get those deep in the core of your soul. And that's a place to live from. Yeah. That's a place that takes care of the, whatever your experiences happen to be. And I think experiences, can be, I had an experience, as I mentioned, when I was 11, that really ended up defining the entirety of my life in one sense. So, but it didn't sustain me as a Christian. In one sense, it defines me as a Christian, but it's the word that sustains me.
Love that. That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Christopher, you have anything that you can pinpoint as being a challenge in your faith?
Yeah, I would say some of the biggest challenges that come to mind have been emotional, in the sense of like loss, like losing a relationship, or and it wasn't so much so to the point that I didn't believe in God, but it was to the point that I had a very skewed perspective of what he was doing to me. Like, for a long time, and quite frankly, I'm still in counseling over this, of multiple issues, but this is one issue, is I had this perception of God is basically not wanting to give me anything that I want. And so like if I had a relationship or something, I was waiting for him to pull the rug out from under me. And I had a relationship once that I totally believed was from God, and it ended. It wasn't long lasting, but I was very infatuated and head over heels, and I felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, and I felt that God did that because I believed that he was the one who brought her to me. And so it was more of a crisis of emotion and not trusting that he truly is a loving Heavenly Father, as opposed to the ogre in the sky who doesn't give you anything you want.
Yeah.
So,
well, cool. These are our podcasts are usually around 30 to 35 minutes, and we're at 50 now. But you got to consider we got 3 people here now, so it's like 30 minutes each, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Some of us talk more than others, so
yeah.
Get a word in
I wonder who that is.
Christopher.
With Thor.
So you guys have worked a lot together as partners in projects, so you know each other well. Last comment is, Thor, is there anything about Christopher that you'd like to share that none of us know in your close relationship with him? There's
a lot of things I could share about Christopher that people don't know, but I want to spare people. This is a Christian broadcast, and I want to do what's best for them. So there are aspects of Christopher I will not share with them for the sake of the public good. But I don't know. He's one of my best friends. Really.
Aww. That's the first thing I think. That's the first time I've heard him say that.
What?
That's the first time I've heard you say that. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you are one of my best friends. I mean,
this is starting to feel like an Oprah show here. I'm bringing these people together.
And you get a friend, and you get a friend, and you get a friend.
No, he's a great brain. It's like when I have a writing issue that I'm dealing with, I always call him just to talk it out. But I find it very helpful. But it's his reaction is always good. And he's a great laugher. He's a great person to throw stuff at. Yeah, because he'll laugh at the right places, not laugh at the right, it's like if I've always felt like if Christopher laughs at something, it's the kind of comedy that's going to make the majority of people in the room laugh. And the things that he doesn't laugh at, I go, well, there's some things that other people will laugh at too. So I have to have some comedy for those people.
Yeah, we don't always agree on things, but I think our sense of humor is very similar when it comes to scripts and what's funny and what'll work on camera and stuff. We're usually on the same page with that.
So anything you'd like to share, Christopher, about Thor in this year?
I thought I had something in it, and now it escaped me. I don't know where it went. Okay. So a lot of people don't know this. He was a groomsman at my wedding, and he gave a toast that was hilarious.
Is it available on YouTube?
I gave a toast.
I wanted to make it available on YouTube, but my wife felt it was more of a private, setting thing. So, but I would love for people to see it because it was hilarious.
Have it on tape?
Yeah, Gary Emmerich came out and videoed it. Remember?
I don't even remember it.
Yeah. Well, I could share it with you.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I could share it with you. Just don't post it anywhere.
Funny. That's funny.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for spending some time here. And the last little plug will be to buy a book. So this book is are you saying there's 2 books, and which the most current book is the one about hell, right?
Focus on the movie. Church people.
Focus on the movie. Okay.
Focus on the
digital release is coming out in September, but
yeah. So go to churchpeoplefilm.com. And scroll down the homepage. There's a place where you can sign up for updates, and they will not bombard your email with, useless emails. They'll let you know when it comes out on DVD. Sometime in September. We don't have a date yet. I don't have a date yet, at least. And churchpeoplefilm.com. scroll down the homepage, sign up for the updates, and you'll be notified when you can either watch it on streaming or other digital platforms, or get the DVD Blu-ray. So
the most encouraging book on hell is a short book. So if you want a good book on that topic, the most encouraging book on hell ever, then yeah, I can promote that one still. That one I can still promote. The other two, forget about it. There's 2 other books. Don't even worry about those. That one's still.
All right. Well, good luck with the movie coming in September. And thank you so much for taking the time with us here on Amazing Greats. You guys are amazing. And God bless you.
Thanks a lot, Rick.
Thank you so much for having us. God bless you too.